everybody. Oh, woo! Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camlier. Our next guest created the iconic character Dwight Schrute on NBC's The Office. He popularized the phrase, "Your ego is prego" in Juno, and now you can see Rainn Wilson battle a prehistoric-sized shark with Jason Statham in the new movie, The Meg. Let's take a look.
What's that?
There's a monster outside.
What you people discovered is bigger than we ever thought possible.
How big is that thing?
It was the largest shark that ever existed.
A living fossil.
Thought to have been extinct for over 2 million years.
Wrong.
My God. It's a Megalodon.
He's kidding, right?
That thing's out there. We need to find it and kill it.
Why don't you just put a tracker on it? Did you guys ever watch Shark Week?
He looks heroic, but he's kind of got a negative attitude.
Chew on this, you ugly.
Everybody, please welcome Rainn Wilson. Hey,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks so much for being here.
Nice to be here.
Let's talk about The Meg. You play the Meg in this movie. You do
I
a
do.
phenomenal job.
That shark suit,
Yeah,
amazing.
it's huge. What was that?
Yeah.
Was it sweaty? What was it like?
Oh, it was so hot in there. The prosthetic. I was in the makeup chair for 3.5 hours every morning. 5
Really one of
a.m.
our heroes.
Yes.
Makeup chairs.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
God. What was the audition like for that? And then I'll drop a bit.
I just had to, and I had to put a big squid in my mouth.
That's
what she said.
Were you a fan? Were you a fan of sort of creature feature monster movies? This movie, not just Jaws, but there is a real, there are aficionados and lovers of creature features. Were you like that at all?
Yeah, sure. You know, I grew up watching all the B movies that would play on in the 70s, you know, over the weekend, Creature from the Black Lagoon kind of thing. This is a monster movie. That's what it is. It's got sci-fi elements and thriller elements and comedy elements, but it's just the mysterious monster that came from someplace mysterious that's attacking and eating people, and there's an intrepid team of eclectic people that are doing battle with that creature.
It's a classic drive-in movie.
It's a drive-in movie, and that's what really attracted me to it. Is just how much fun it is. There's no pretense with The Meg at all. This is a fun summer popcorn movie, big, funny. It has it's an interesting tone that the director Jon Turteltaub had to walk, which was how do you keep it serious? You know, this is like people's lives are at stake. People might get chomped on. They might die. But at the same time, like the villain it's a giant shark, people. It's just a giant shark. So you can't take itself too seriously. So it walks that line of having fun. But if it makes fun of itself too much, then it's Sharknado. Right. You know, you don't want to do that. So it's gotta feel real.
It's got to be real stakes. People
real
have to actually
stakes.
buy into the story
Yeah.
and want characters to survive. Whereas in Sharknado, kill all of them. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. I hope the sharks destroy humanity. So yeah, so but it's a lot of fun, and I was happy to be a part of just a big, silly, fun monster movie.
We'll talk about your character.
No.
Okay, yeah, I'll talk about him.
so, yeah.
He's kind of a rich guy,
Rich
and
guy.
yeah, he's running this sort of this research facility, which is out in the middle of the ocean, off the outside of China, and he essentially is pushing the researchers to move faster and harder because he is spending too much money. And he, at the top of the movie, is coming out there to celebrate something big that has happened. Unbeknownst to him, he's in for a surprise.
He's in for a surprise in the shape of a shark the size of a Greyhound bus. So Morris is he's a billionaire, and it's interesting. I've met a lot of billionaires in my life. It's funny. Billionaires love to be around actors. So and sports
Why?
figures. I don't know. It's kind of crazy, but I've met through my line of work just at various conferences and shoots and events and stuff like that, a bunch of these billionaires. So I had a little bit to draw on of like how they act and how they walk and talk. And there's definitely some elements that I pulled on. There's something about billionaires, a lot of times they're like big kids. You know, they're worth $30 billion, but they wear Air Jordans. You know, and they're like, hey, how's it going? And they do high fives. You know what I mean? Like, case in point, the guy who's married to Serena Williams, Alexis Ohanian.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just like a big kid, and they have a great, like, positive, kind of up with people energy a lot. And this is part of why they became billionaires, is they have a deep, fun curiosity. But he's a little different, this guy Morris, because he needed to be a little more dastardly. This is not a guy who invented, AOL. This is a guy who has mining interests around the globe and probably mines the cobalt and lithium and has, militias guarding the mines in the Congo, and he has access to military. You see him in the movie calling in some military helicopters at one point and stuff like that. So he needed to be a little bit different than that.
I got the sense of him, and it was maybe my just projection, that he was potentially the son of or a family member of a mining family or sort of billionaire family that had been around for a little while. And a lot of his sort of youthful exuberance came from the lack of any kind of consequence to his actions a lot of the time.
No limits on his behavior whatsoever. Yeah, that's probably true. His family owned a coal mine or a copper mine in North Dakota or something like that.
Like this billion-dollar research facility is his little project that he has.
It's a $2.5 billion pet project that he has on the side. And there were other drafts where he was talking about ways that they were going to monetize it, and what they could discover in the ocean could be medicines that were worth billions. So this is a new thing in pharmaceuticals and pharmacology, is finding these plants in the Amazon or things under the ocean that can be turned into, that have surprising and profound effects on the human body and brain, and anti-cancer drugs and stuff like that. You can find these things and develop them and build a drug and make billions of dollars. So that kind of got cut from the movie, because it's more about just like, oh no, it's a shark, so that was kind of his impetus as well.
But that's still so cool that even though what comes out in the end is sort of what has to come out to make the Meg, and the Meg has to be this kind of movie, there's still all this research and thought put into the type of character that you have. You can use that stuff going into scenes.
Yeah, I mean, you have to kind of build the foundation. I mean, even in a movie as silly and just kind of balls out fun as this, you have to do a little bit of that work of like, who's my character? What's his history? What's his attitude towards everyone? You have to know how you feel about the different people, and what your intentions are, what your goals are, and all of this stuff is the fuel that kind of that motivates you as an actor. I'm not trying to pretend to be like Marlon Brando here in The Meg, but you do. It's important to do that work, and it was fun to kind of dig into some of that research for it.
Have you ever had an instance where, I guess The Meg is the only movie that you've really made that's kind of like this, where actors go into a scene and don't do that, don't feel like they have to do some of that research because they don't take the project itself as seriously or anything? Not any names or anything like that, but I'm just always kind of curious about...
You want names. Who are the lazy
I
actors?
I wouldn't dare ask that. But I think it's fascinating to go into a scene and be like, oh, what's my character? He's mad. Okay, here we go. And then that can be flat a lot of the time.
Yeah, well, I can't, like, when you ask that question, like, nothing sprung to mind. There wasn't, like, any actors that came to mind that don't do that kind of work. I suppose if you're doing a Steven Seagal movie, like, he's just like, I'm Steven Seagal, I'm gonna kick ass. Like, he doesn't really think about his character. I imagine, I don't know the guy. He's a new diplomat, isn't he? From Russia to the United States, a cultural ambassador, which is pretty cool.
I saw a tweet recently, someone said he looks like Wilford Brimley in disguise, which I thought was really funny.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. He's waiting outside, he's gonna kick both our asses.
I think I could get away from him at this point, to be honest with you.
You're pretty spry. Yeah, he's kind of hulking.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So
They feed him well in Moscow.
yeah. Pierogies. So most actors, even stuff, even light summer fare like this, most actors worth their salt will have done that kind of thought process and that research.
You get the sense of that in this movie as well, because even a light summer fare like this, you have great actors in the entire cast, and you also have everybody does have a B or C storyline as well that they're working out as well.
Yeah, that's one of the strengths of this film, is the ensemble is really rich and interesting and diverse. And it's not like the nerd, the brain, the dumb, strong guy, the slutty tart woman, the thing. There's none of that kind of like cliched stereotype characters. Every character has a lot of nuance and a lot of different colors, and their senses of humor are different, and their strengths and weaknesses are different, and they rely on each other. It's a great ensemble movie.
How's it working with Jason Statham, who I think is sort of one of the great sort of action movie stars that we have?
I completely agree with you. I love Jason Statham. Even his bad films, I'm huge fans of, and I think he's just a really, truly believable action star. There's something about him that he has this quiet integrity and a great kind of wry sense of humor, and he's a true badass. He really is. Like you believe he can go in and kick the crap out of somebody, and when he says, like, oh, I'm going to go out and I'm going to kick the crap out of somebody, you're like, oh, that guy, he's going to go kick the crap out of somebody. And he's like, you can't doubt that. He was great to work with. I'm always nicely surprised when you work with a giant star who has literally 1 billion fans. He's got like 1 billion fans from all those Fast and Furious movies and action movies around the globe. And when they're like a decent, nice, relatable human being, fantastic.
Yeah, but you kind of have to be, because you don't control as an actor, even if you're an action star, that the Fast and the Furious movies are going to do as well that they do. There is a blind luck that goes into so much of this industry that you kind of you can't hold that stuff on your shoulders, I would imagine.
Some people do.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Not just the Meg. I was looking. You did a play with. I asked this as a personal reason. I love Will Eno. You did Tom Paine.
Yeah.
What was it like doing a one-man show?
Yeah. Will Eno, a great New York playwright. This is the play that really put him on the map was called Tom Paine, not Plain. And I did the LA premiere of it about a year or two ago, and it's me talking for about 75 minutes directly to the audience in these kind of circuitous, verbose, funny, tragic kind of monologues and stories. And it's one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. It was so colossally hard. Theater is hard.
Enjoyably so, or by the end you're like, thank God that's over?
I mean, film is like, like the Meg is like, okay, in this shot you're like typing on the computer, and then you look at the screen and you're like, oh my God, it's a Megalodon. Ready? Action. Click, 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 click. Camera. Oh my God, it's a Megalodon. Cut. Good. Let's take lunch, 2 hours, go to your trailer. There's lobster rolls. What would you like the cooks to make you? here's a smoothie. You know what I mean? And it's like, but theater is like hard. You have to work on all these lines and kind of embody the language, and it's in your body, and it's truly, truly challenging. But Tom Paine, based on nothing, is a great work of the theater, and it was a phenomenal experience. And we were really lucky we got to film it. So there's actually a mini film version of that performance of Tom Paine. So that's another weird thing about theater is you go in, you work all these hours, and you perform it for a few months, and the few hundred people or 1,000 people that got to see it, they saw it, they had that live ephemeral experience in the theater, and then that experience evaporates, and then it's done. And then unless they kind of record it for Lincoln Center for posterity on a VHS tape sitting in some boxes in a library somewhere, it's not really recorded, and it's just done. It's just gone. Movies like this will be here thousands of years from now. People will be studying my performance in The Meg. So we were really lucky with Tom Paine. We got to film it, but it's a phenomenal piece.
What was your relationship to theater prior to that?
I did a lot of theater. In fact, I went to school over here, right up there at NYU, Tisch School of the Arts. And in fact, what's really freaking me out is that this was the Tower Records that I would go to at least twice a week. And whenever I got, like, I remember getting my student loan check and running to Tower Records because I could spend like $300 on CDs. Remember CDs? So yeah, I spent a lot of time in this building, although it was filled with CDs and pierced people. So
Imagine how many records we would have if we had missed that whole blip of purchasing CDs and just stuck with records for that 15 years.
it would have been way better. Remember all that plastic? Like they had CDs, and then they had them in the big plastic cases, and you'd have to unwrap them, and it's more plastic.
Yeah, that's
Open
right.
the plastic and
Breaking the case.
and trying to like slit the plastic thing, and then it was ridiculous. Yeah, we should have stuck with vinyl the whole time. Everyone would have amazing record collections.
That's what I mean, yeah. Like there wouldn't have been that piece of time where you're like, I'll just sell my vinyl.
Well, because I
get
went
CDs.
from vinyl to cassette to CD.
Did you ever go back to vinyl?
I have some vinyl. I'm not like a hipster vinyl collector, but yeah. So I went to theater school right over here, and then I did 10 years of theater around New York and tours and stuff like that, which was just a great experience. Got to play some amazing parts. Had some incredible experiences. I did 3 years of touring. 2 of them was touring Shakespeare shows in a like bus and truck, pulling into a town and doing Midsummer Night's Dream to an audience that had literally never seen Shakespeare before, you know, in Oklahoma or Idaho or something like that. And it's a great way to cut your teeth as an actor.
And how did Will Eno approach you to do Tom Paine?
So Will Eno and I were roommates in Chelsea in 1988.
Really?
And he was a painter at the time. And then I was reading a magazine, and he had written something in it. And then, believe it or not, I like called the magazine. This is before like emails and websites. And I was like, hey, Will Eno did a piece. And they're like, oh yeah. And then it was a small magazine, New York one. It was called Literal Latte. There you go. I just remembered the name. And I was like, hey, can I get a hold of him? And I like left a message for him. And then he called me. I think I had a voicemail. And then he had become a playwright. So I did some of his earliest plays, his earliest little one-acts here in New York City in the early 90s, scooting around doing little readings of Will Eno plays. And we hung out and we're good friends. We played tennis. I think I'm going to see him tomorrow night, as a matter of fact. So
he's got a new play going up, I believe, this season at the Signature or something like that. Yeah. Oh,
he's
that's
actually,
so cool.
Tom Paine is happening at the Signature with Michael C. Hall doing it here.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Are you gonna check that out?
Absolutely going to check it out.
Can you handle watching like another actor do an interpretation of something?
I
that you
am
did as
so
well?
excited. Michael C. Hall is one of the great American actors. I mean,
You
he's
worked with on 6 Feet Under as
yes,
well. Yeah.
on 6 Feet Under. He's amazing, and to see his interpretation, bringing those words to life, I'm really excited to see that.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Let's get some questions from our audience. Who's a question? Right here. Hey there.
So I'm a huge fan of The Office, but apart from that, what did you take from playing the role of Dwight to playing the role in The Meg?
Right. Well, you know, I view myself, thank you, young lady, for that wonderful question. You know, I'm just an actor, so I just play roles. So I just, you know, whether I'm in a Shakespeare play or this or that, you know, I just try and bring the character to life. I try and use as much of myself as possible. I'm not trying to sound all pretend. always wary of, I hate it when actors talk about being actors as if it's this precious thing. But this is just what I do. This is what I get paid for, is what I train to do, is to play characters, right? So then they were doing The Office, and I saw the British Office, and then I was like, oh, I'll play this character of Dwight. I'll give him a haircut like this, and he'll kind of sit like this, and he'll be kind of officious in this way, and I talked to the writers and kind of work it out, and then created the character of Dwight. Little did I know we were going to do 200 episodes of it, and it was going to become this big hit. But there's plenty of characters that I've played that I did the same amount of work and no one watched. I did a TV show after The Office called Backstrom. No one watched it. It got canceled. But I did a lot of work on that too, figuring out who's this guy and how does he walk? How does he sit in a chair? What's his backstory? What makes him see the world the way that he sees the world? So this is just what an actor does, is they figure out all this stuff. How does the character inhabit their body in the world, going about what it is they're trying to achieve? So I do that same thing for Dwight, and I do the same thing for Morris in the Meg. There might be some similarities because it's just my body and it's my big weird face, and so there might be similarities and there'll be some differences and stuff like that too. And I try and, with every character, make sure that they're distinctly etched, you know. So.
Is it weird when you do the work for a character like Dwight and it turns into what it turns into?
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, we were almost canceled like 4 or 5 times. We barely hung on. Oh yeah, we were not a hit at all. We were panned. Read the reviews of The Office when it came out.
The first season, yeah.
Yes, it was panned. The first season was panned. Not as funny as the English version. Should be canceled. People are outraged. I hate it. Watch the English show. There was all of this kind of stuff happening. And then Kevin Riley, who was running NBC at the time, or head of programming, he kind of hip-pocketed us. So he kind of like squirreled away a little budget for us to shoot like 5 episodes of the second season. And then they liked them and they ordered 2 or 3 more, and then they started putting them on, and it just barely hung on. And it was in the second season, the Dundies, the Halloween episode, the Christmas episode, all of a sudden it started to catch on, and we went from like 97th to like 82nd to like 67th to like 40th to like 30th to like, all of a sudden we were just going, you know, in terms of rankings of TV shows, and then we got on. But it was in those times when they were just ordering little blips and blobs of episodes, we weren't sure if we were going to have a job. So it's so weird then that it became this iconic guy and this great show, and we had Emmy nominations and SAG awards and stuff like that. And then it trailed off towards the end. People kind of got tired of it. Steve Carell left. We had our audience kind of went down.
Like 10 years, right? I mean,
yeah, it was a long run, and it was kind of declining in our run, and people were like, oh, The Office is washed up and it's done with. And then very few people were watching it, and then no one watched it for 3 or 4 years, and all of a sudden it's on Netflix. And then all of a sudden 9-year-olds and 10-year-olds and girls like this have seen it again. And now more people are kind of actively watching The Office now than ever when it was on NBC, even when it was a top 10 show on NBC. Because, and people now, they don't even know what NBC is. What is NBC? What is that, a TV station or something? They don't know what it is. So it's an incredible experience to have it have this second life. It's pretty amazing. But it's challenging for all of us as actors to kind of like, that's the thing that we're known for. I am both super grateful for Dwight. It opened so many doors, gave me so many opportunities. I bought a house. But it's also challenging to break out and play other roles and stuff like that.
And I would imagine to exist in the world anonymously at times as well.
Hence the beard.
Hence the beard, yeah.
It helps me get around without getting mobbed. I never get mobbed, but you know what I mean.
Hey, Dwight! And you have to go,
Dwight, yo, Dwight! Hey, yo, can I get a selfie?
Well, why, yes, young man, since you're so charming and articulate and polite, and your human interactive skills, I would love to have a selfie with you.
Well, next question.
I was wondering, how do you prepare for, or what methods do you use before filming a scene to have a full embodiment of your character?
Wow, thank you so much. These are some heavy questions about the craft of acting. Thank you so much.
What makes you cry, Rainn?
Well, there's a lot of ways you do. You know, most of acting is kind of tricks to make you get out of your head. You know what I mean? Have you ever done acting and you all of a sudden you get really self-conscious and it's like you're watching yourself? You know, there's like a little security camera in a 7-Eleven, you know, and you're kind of like self-conscious, like, and you go like this and you're like, oh my, look what my arm is doing. And look, so everything in acting is to trick your brain to get out of that self-consciousness and to allow you to have kind of freedom to be in the character. So there's a lot of different techniques that actors use to do that. You know, relaxation is one of them. Just being in your body, finding the character in the body, because when you can focus on how the character stands, how they sit, how they breathe, how they feel in their clothes, that's another way in. You know, psychologically, you kind of amp yourself up. What have I just been through in the last hour or the last 15 minutes or the last 2 minutes? So you kind of, and ultimately you deeply pretend. You know, when you're acting, you're just like a kid in the sandbox, and one kid is pretending to be a cowboy, and someone else is pretending to be Beyonce, and they're just deeply pretending, and you're using that same skill set that you had when you were 4 years old or 7 years old, pretending to be someone, and you're just applying that to a different character. So instead of pretending to be Beyonce, I'm just pretending to be Morris the billionaire who's he's going to be sued by millions of people, and he's funding this research facility that has unleashed this gargantuan shark upon humanity.
Next question.
Hi. So my question has to do with backstage. Since the film's tone is kind of between Jaws and Sharknado, let's say, was it kind of like hijinks and fun behind the scenes, or was it more serious?
Oh, we had a lot of fun behind the scenes. And Jason was a little more serious, but the whole movie is on his shoulders, you know, and he's a pretty serious guy. And, you know, he's got to do stunts. He's been working out. He's got to carry the physical action. But the rest of the ensemble, we just had a blast. We were mostly on a boat. It was crazy. There was, we were either in a boat in the ocean off of New Zealand, or we were in half a boat. They made a duplicate of that boat, cut it in half. This is how they do things in films. It's so weird. They built a giant tank, bigger than this entire building, and we were floating in a tank on half a boat for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun.
Like a green screen behind the tank as well?
Giant. It was outdoors. It's about the size of a soccer field, about 6 feet deep, filled with divers in case anyone fell in or something like that. There's just divers just all day just going... like just in case someone needed rescuing. There was actually a guy that was covered in scars that had been chewed up by a shark.
Wow.
So actual experience with sharks. And yeah, and then giant green screens like the size of drive-in movie theater screens. I mean, hundreds of feet tall, held by cranes. So then if they just move the half a boat, you know, they'd have the cameras here, they'd shoot a scene here, and then they just kind of move the boat like that, and then they could keep the cameras the same, and move the boat like that, or they'd come in, move in the... It's very complicated shooting on the water, but we had a lot of crazy fun. There was just some funny ass people, and the great thing too about this movie, just as a personal experience, it was so much fun shooting in New Zealand, which is unbelievably beautiful. New Zealand is a ridiculous place. You can't even believe what you're looking at sometimes. That's where they did Lord of the Rings, all those mountains and forests. You've got to go see it. But the cast was from all over the world.
That was something that I liked about the film as well, that it's a very diverse global cast.
Yeah,
really
yeah.
cool.
We got an Icelandic guy. It was me and Paige Kennedy were the only Americans, and a couple of Australians, couple Kiwis, several Chinese actors. So it was very international, and that was a lot of fun too. Because this is a new wave of films that are happening where they are conceived for a global audience. This isn't like we're going to make a kick-ass American film that we hope we can sell in other territories. This is like we're going to make a film that is about its worldwide release. And and Jason Statham is huge in all kinds of places, in Indonesia and the Philippines and India and Romania and, you know, all over the world. He's known as an action star.
I think we have time for one more question. Right here, hi.
Hi, what made you decide you wanted to act?
Oh, the actors. This is like inside the actor's studio. What made me decide that I wanted to act?
Does that feel weird doing an inside the actor's studio type interview for the Meg? Is that
Yeah, that's where it feels a little preposterous. It's just like, oh my God, ah! What made you know that you needed to be an actor? It's like when James Lipton does those inside the actor's studio, but he'll have like a pretty questionable actor from like CSI. It's like, when did you know you wanted to look at DNA evidence? You know, for 27 years on a long-running television show. I'm like, I believe it's him. Here's a crazy story. I always knew that I wanted to act, and my mom left my dad, and I stayed with my dad, and then I always wanted to act. My dad was always a little bit weird. He was a little bit funky about me being an actor, and I never knew why. He was very supportive of me being an artist in general, but just not an actor. And then when later, as I got to know my mom, because I didn't really see my mom again or get to know her until I was like 15 or 16, then I found out that she had been an actress way back in the day. So it's kind of, I think I have a genetic predisposition to being an actor. But when I started watching stuff on TV, especially like sitcoms and comedies and Jerry Lewis movies and Saturday Night Live and Monty Python and Taxi and you know, the Bob Newhart show, I was like, I want to do that. That's what I want to do. And that's so amazing is that I loved the crazy sidekicks on those TV shows, and then I became a crazy sidekick on a TV show. So follow your dreams, kids. Then one day you can be a crazy sidekick on a TV show.
Did you know it was your dream to be a crazy sidekick on a TV show before you did it? Or when you were doing it, were you like, oh, wow, looking back at my life?
Exactly. Looking back in season like 3 of The Office, and all of a sudden there was a news article. It was like the 10 best sidekicks of all time. And I made the list. I forget what number I was, but I was on the 10 best sidekicks of all time. And I was like, sidekicks. And then had other sidekicks that I grew up watching I loved that sidekick. And I loved Jamie Farr on MASH. When I watched MASH, I liked to watch, Jamie Farr or Radar O'Reilly. I like to watch all the crazy clown ancillary characters, not the lead characters. And it's like, and now I'm on that list. This is incredible. It's not what I pursued. I just wanted to be an actor. But it's so amazing how it turned out. I'm really the most grateful and lucky guy alive.
Well, on that note, The Meg is out this Thursday, right?
Yeah, Thursday night, The Meg.
Thursday night. Everyone should go see it. It's great. It's a lot of fun. You're fantastic in it. Everybody give a big round of applause for Rainn Wilson.
Come on. Thank you.